let me ask you something. What would your life look like if you had never had a fear of gaining weight? I'm just going to pause with that for a moment. Think about that. Would you dress differently, eat differently, move differently? Would you finally exhale because that pressure was off of you? This episode is for anyone who is stuck between wanting to heal their relationship with food and that big fear of what might happen to your body if you do. Welcome to Unbodied Love, where we're rewriting the rules around food, body image, and self-acceptance. I'm Dr. Meredith McKenzie, therapist, coach, and your guide to a life free from diet culture and food guilt. If you ever felt stuck in the cycle of binging, restricting, or struggling to feel at home in your body, you're in the right place. Each week, we'll explore emotional eating, body image, and joyful movement through solo episodes, expert interviews, and real-life coaching sessions. Because your body is not the problem. This is your space to learn, heal, and finally break free, and to discover what it means to love the body you're in. So today we're unpacking how to actually start making peace with the idea of gaining weight without giving up on your well-being, because that is everybody's fear, that I am going to take on intuitive eating and suddenly I'm going to lose all control of my food, or I will allow myself and give permission to myself to eat the things that I have always been afraid of eating, and I'm going to just gain so much weight. We're going to talk about how to do this without giving up on your well-being, your values, and even your sense of self. Because this is what I know the majority of women listening to this are afraid of. They know that the pain that comes with dieting and restricting and following the rules, it is a lot. It is painful in its own right. But at the same time, the flip side of that, the fear of gaining weight and what that all means, is a different form of pain that is incredibly scary. And to make that decision, even if they know that ultimately that would be the healthiest decision for themselves, mentally, physically as well, because they're restricting so much, they know that on the other side could be a life without binge eating. It feels so terrifying to imagine giving it all up. It's almost like you have this like sunk investment in it. I've worked so hard to try to find the best way to have the ideal body that I want, even if I'm not physically at the weight that I want to be at. I am so scared of losing all of that effort, all of that sacrifice that I have made up until this point. So if that's you, I want you to keep listening. If you have been stuck in the binge restrict cycle for a while, chances are you've already know something needs to change. But here's the tough part. When you're still afraid of gaining weight, that fear can pull you right back into restriction, because that is the thing that has kept you safe. Even when you want to eat intuitively, even when you know the old way isn't working, you still want to. It's so scary. And I get it. This work isn't about pretending your body won't change, and it's about learning to care for yourself even when there is uncertainty. There's no magic scale that tells me, your doctor, or your dietitian, anyone, even some influencer on Instagram, what your body's personal set point will be when you stop restricting. But before we go any further, I want to talk about 3 things that might actually be making this whole process of recovery harder for you. The first one is that when you focus on your weight, even if you're saying to yourself, I'm going to listen to my body now, I'm going to allow myself to eat all the foods, it becomes so much harder to trust your body. It leads you to hesitate. You second guess what your body is telling you. Am I really hungry? Do I really need that thing? And you override your hunger. And then eventually you're going to overeat. That is exhausting in and of itself. It's not your fault though, because this is exactly how the restrict binge cycle works. Even if you've given yourself permission to eat everything, if you have that mental restriction in the back of your mind that I don't want to gain weight, I need to be very careful, you are continuously going to be giving up the responsibility and the autonomy that you have over that cue of hunger, that cue of fullness, and you are going to continue to look outside of yourself for what is the best decision. even if you say to yourself, I'm not counting calories anymore, or I'm not using MyFitnessPal, or whatever the form that you were using previously, it's still going to be in the back of your mind that I am terrified of gaining weight, so therefore I have to be careful with what I'm eating. And you still do not trust your body. And when you don't trust your body, when you don't truly give yourself permission, eventually that sense of deprivation is going to kick in and you are going to eventually overeat. The second thing that's probably getting in your way is that the way you have been eating isn't actually serving your health. So what you've been engaging in is this yo-yo pattern of restricting and then rebounding. And it's far harder on your body when we think about it in the long term, both mentally and physically, than finding a stable and nourishing rhythm. So when we go back and forth from, okay, I'm going to give myself permission, but then I end up eating all these things that I wouldn't normally eat, and it's really scary, but what the heck, I'm just going to eat it. And you free fall into giving yourself full permission, but it's totally followed up with shame and guilt and overwhelm. And then you go back into restricting because I can't keep that going. I need to be careful. You are doing a real, number on your body and your mental health, because you're just feeling like, am I failing? Am I doing this right? I'm so scared all the time. It's a very stressful experience. And your body doesn't know how to make sense of it either. Why is this person suddenly having all this free access to a whole bunch of nourishing, fuel, and then suddenly they're not? It's so confusing for the body. So that is one thing that I want you to keep in mind as well. The third is that the fear that you're experiencing, it isn't yours alone. This is a cultural experience. This is something that's been handed down to you. It's been reinforced in subtle ways and sometimes, and in others, incredibly loud ways since you were young. But just because it's common doesn't mean that it's right, or that it has to be the way you associate with food and your body for the rest of your life. There are going to be people, regardless of what you're doing, if it's right for you, that are going to have opinions about that are going to not understand it, and that are going to try to encourage you to go back to restriction because that is what makes them feel safe, or that is what feels right to them. You will notice, though, once you take a step back and you are making more intuitive eating choices for yourself and you're engaging with your body in a more intuitive way, that you see these behaviors in other people around you, and you recognize that a lot of people are struggling with their relationship with food in their bodies. And it can feel, validating. It can feel sad as well to recognize that people are struggling. But you're not alone in that. That is a very common experience. So here's the part that no one really wants to say out loud, and it's maybe an unpopular opinion for somebody who works in the intuitive eating world, right? You might gain weight as part of your healing. That is something that no one wants to say because they want to encourage you to come on this journey. And grieving that possibility of achieving the ideal weight that you wanted to be at is a super valid part of the work that I think is necessary to do so that you don't relapse. Some days you'll feel strong, empowered, even excited by the freedom that you're having as an intuitive eater. And then other days, your jeans are going to feel tight. It's going to be a cue to you that you've gained too much weight, or you'll see an old photo and suddenly that fear of weight gain is going to creep back in. However, none of that means that you're failing. It means that you are human. This is a process. This is a journey. This isn't something that you decide that you're going to be an intuitive eater and then suddenly it all gets easier. Grief of that ideal body is a huge part of this whole process. And part of what we can really help with is taking a look at who you are surrounded by, both online and offline. If you're around people constantly talking about their weight, making body changes, how bad they've been with food, it's going to be harder for you to hold on to your values. I'm not saying that you need to cut these people off, but you can start being more intentional about who you follow on social media, what you consume in terms of content, and how you protect your headspace. Maybe that involves setting boundaries with certain people in your life. Maybe that is letting people know that you are trying to recover, or maybe it's just going through a full overhaul of your social media and finding what is going to work for you. Let's talk about some real things that you can do that help take the edge off of that fear of weight gain. The first one is to buy clothes that actually fit your body. I'm not asking you to spend a whole lot of money, but even just a couple of outfits that feel good in your current body, that feel good on your current body, can completely change your day. It's, not feeling your bra stick into your body. It's not feeling your pants uncomfortable on your stomach. So many of us are walking around uncomfortable without realizing how it is affecting how we feel about our bodies. It's this almost subconscious cue that we get of, oh, right, I don't fit my clothes. I'm not in the good body. And if you're able to change what your body is wearing, then you can not have that cue. It can feel so much more relaxing. And it can feel as though you don't have to change something about yourself in order to be comfortable. Another strategy you can use is to focus on what your body can do, not necessarily how it looks, but what it is capable of doing. This is a strategy where we are shifting from a self-objectification standpoint, and we're seeing the capabilities of our bodies and how amazing they are, regardless of the packaging. Whether that's carrying groceries, hugging your kids, walking upstairs, or recovering from burnout, your body is doing something every day that deserves respect. Personally, this is something that I have truly embraced. When I became a mom, was very, very intentional and had it in my mind that I did not want to pass on the body image issues that I experienced as a young person to my children. And so I have worked very hard to, I don't want to say radically accept, because I feel like even having kids and seeing the wonder and the joy and the innocence that they have when talking about bodies, that it is just so easy for me to jump into that. I know that is not everybody's experience, but I will talk to my son when he was like 2 years old. He would, talk about mommy's squishy tummy, mommy's soft tummy. I see your belly button, things where we were just like having a moment of closeness and joy about the way our bodies were together. He would give my belly button a kiss, or don't even get me started on what it was like when I then got pregnant with my daughter and having him see my belly grow. But kids that young don't understand. They don't see or judge bodies in a negative way. They just see that you have a soft body where I can land and I can cuddle and I can feel safe. And those are things that I personally really find helpful I don't ever want this body to change. I want this body to be the body that my kids feel as their safe landing. I want it to be the space where they know that they are accepted no matter what. And that is so important to me. These are things that I believe that my body deserves respect for. I'm going to give you another example. One of my clients, and we'll call her Sarah for this, came to me feeling like she had to truly earn her place in her body every single day. And throughout our work, she found a form of movement that felt really good for her emotionally and physically. She was able to reconnect with her physical strength, finally started feeling proud about what her body could do, and she wasn't focused on how it looked in the same way. Instead, she was celebrating the different things that she was able to do at the gym. She was celebrating how physically good she felt at home, that she wasn't having the same aches and pains in her body, that she was feeling sexy, and that she was able to see herself as a very capable, strong woman. And it was these things that when we focused on them in our sessions, she really had a mental shift about her body image. And was there still the fear of gaining weight? Yes, that existed. But this new relationship that she was developing with herself and her body through her experience of movement really took up a lot more space in her mind than that fear that she was having about the weight gain. Another tip that I have for you is to really take a moment and think and be honest with yourself about what that fear of weight gain is costing you, because there is a cost. When you are stuck in fear, you are going to make yourself smaller. You're not just in your body, but in life in general. You're going to start shrinking your joy, your pleasure, the space that you take up in the world, whether or not you attend functions, if you put yourself out there, if you let your voice be heard. Are there ways that your body and your fear of weight gain are getting in the way of you being truly invested and active in your life? Or are you now passively sitting on the sidelines? How is that fear impacting you, both in the moment, but then also longer term in your relationships, in your career, in the joy that you find with friendships or activities that you're involved in? I really want you to think about that. So let me give you one simple tool that you can use at mealtimes or whenever that fear pops up. But for some people, it's around mealtimes because they feel that that is that cause and effect situation. They need to be careful of what they're eating because they may gain weight. So the next time you sit down to eat and you feel anxiety rising in your body, I want you to try this. Pause. Just notice that something is coming up and try to give it a name. You can say, well, that's that fear again. That is my inner critic. That's diet culture's voice. Whatever it sounds like for you, name it. It is a sensation in your body. It doesn't mean that it's a factual notification of anything. It is just your brain, your mind, your value system from diet culture setting out a warning because it's scared. Next, I want you to take a big deep breath. Let that thought be there and don't let it run the show. Notice it, but keep yourself at a distance from it. And then check in with your body. And I know this can be hard when our minds are running a mile a minute, especially with fear. It is very hard to get in touch with your body. And that's why we first pause and we breathe and we try to step away from that fearful thought. But check with your body. Are you feeling hungry? How's your energy right now? What emotion are you feeling? Maybe it's fear, but is there anything else? And use that as your guide, not the fear voice. Let that fear voice do its thing, but you are going to follow your own guide. You're not trying to erase the fear. You're learning to hear it, notice it, and still choose to care for yourself, to feed yourself, to nourish yourself, regardless of what that fear says. There's one more thing I want to leave you with, because this runs deeper than just food or fitness. In our culture, when a woman grows, changes, takes up more space, ages, heaven forbid, literally or metaphorically, there is often pushback. But I believe the world needs more of you, not less of you. Every time you choose to nourish yourself, to show up as you are, to stop shrinking to fit someone else's idea of what beauty is, you are doing something truly powerful. Do that. Take that with you from this episode, and I want you to just try to be you for a moment today and keep that in the back of your mind. Now, if this episode has stirred something in you, maybe a moment of recognition or even just the tiniest bit of relief that you're not alone in this, I would love to invite you to join me in my free masterclass called Break the Binge. In it, we'll dig deeper into why food can feel so out of control, especially when you're stuck in that fear of weight gain. I'll walk you through a simple shame-free method to interrupt the binge restrict cycle, even if you've tried intuitive eating before and felt like this just doesn't work for me. This class is totally free and it's on demand, so you can watch it whenever works for you. But for a limited time, I am going to be offering this class live. So if you want to join me in the room live, head to meredithmckenzie.ca/break-the-binge to save your seat, or click the link in the show notes below. And I will see you inside that class. That's it for today's episode of One Body to Love. I'm so grateful you chose to spend this time with me. These conversations around food and body image can be deeply personal, and the fact that you showed up today open and curious means more than I can say. If today's episode resonated with you, I'd love to hear your thoughts. Come connect with me on Instagram at Dr. Meredith McKenzie. Send me a message, share what stood out, or just say hi. If you're ready to take the next step toward food freedom and finally feel at home in your body, head to meredithmckenzie.ca/OBTL to learn more about the One Body to Love program. You'll find everything you need to begin healing your relationship with food with support every step of the way. If you're enjoying the show, one of the best ways to show support is by leaving a quick rating and review on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you're listening. Your words help more women find this space and feel less alone. Until next time, be gentle with yourself. You deserve a life of peace with food and your body.